Cheers, guys, and welcome to Uncle Scott's Pancast podcast. Woo! In the old Pancast today, we are talking Staub. Got a lot of feedback on the big Staub review I put up. We're going to talk a little bit about All-Clad. I'm going to talk a little bit about Debouille, some Lodge, and what I really want to get started with today, though, is this guy. Oh, it's an official old man noise there. This is a Breville Control Freak induction burner. I just got this thing in yesterday, and I've been really thinking about getting one for a long time now. And what we're going to do now is unbox it and take a quick first look at this guy. Now, and one thing that worries me is that there is tape on the box and there's a hole in the box. So as we open this thing up here, if there is any scratching or damage to this thing, I'm going to swap it for another one, because at this price, you should expect almost white glove service. And I'm hesitant to do this, but let's... Okay, just eyeballing it, I don't see any damage so far from that hole in the box. Who knows what caused that? Comes in a nice carrying case. And that should be good for storage. And let's see here. Good Lord, what an unboxing. Woo, definitely has a manufacturing type smell to it. Here it is. The Breville Control Freak induction burner. Now, when I was doing my research, I saw that Breville also makes a home version of the Control Freak, about $300 cheaper. But comparing the two units, I went with the commercial version. It's a little bit beefier in terms of housing and cooling system, and possibly a little bit better control system. It also came with a carrying case, weighs in at almost 25 pounds. The top burner plate looks to be about 11.5 inches wide, but it says it can accommodate pans with bottom widths up to 10 inches wide. Now, I've been thinking about getting one of these guys for quite some time now, and I've always been somewhat hesitant, mainly due to the price. This thing is $1,500. Good Lord. It's supposed to have hundreds of different temperature settings. It's supposed to be really precise, and it's supposed to have a bigger heating coil than lots of the other induction burners. I got this thing because I want to improve my pan reviews. I think I do a pretty decent job with providing information for you guys when it comes to using cookware on that fancy gas stove upstairs and the electric flat top. If there's been a place where I've wanted to improve my reviews, it's in providing information for people with induction cooktops. Now, I've always had this Burton kind of portable, smaller induction burner, and it kind of reminds me of being a freshman in the high school locker room. But I had trouble with that guy in terms of heat, sometimes just taking off and going astronomical, occasionally getting some warping on some pans, trouble getting even cooking in heat distribution. But I always felt like that left people that were fans of induction lacking a little bit when they watched my pan reviews, and this should get us up to speed here on induction. Now, lots of people think I don't like induction. That is not true. What I don't like is someone mandating that I have to use induction. Not to get political, but the old gas stove ban. If someone says they like induction stoves, fine. If someone says you have to use an induction stove and you can't use your gas stove anymore, that's when I have a problem. So we'll see how it goes. Let's see, I put up a couple of steak videos this week showing how I like to cook steaks in a carbon steel skillet, and they seem to be doing pretty well. I put up a poll as well and asked you guys, how do you like your steaks cooked? Results are still coming in, still plenty of time to vote, but so far, rare or medium rare, 62% of you guys prefer rare or medium rare. Medium, 28%. So 90% of you guys prefer rare, medium rare, or medium. Medium well, 7%, and well done, the shoe leather people, 3%. Let's see, Plebus Fate 1609 wrote in about the steak comments about I was mentioning in the video how I like my steaks. He says, speaking of preference, what do you think of people that like well done steaks? What I think of them as people, believe it or not, my parents are well done people. So probably every steak I ate from 0 years old up to 19 or 20 years old was absolutely well done shoe leather, borderline beef jerky steak. Just those stripped sirloins, Mama put them under the broiler in the oven. And you had to do a little bit of chewing, I got to say. But now that I am my own guy and out on my own, ever since then, I am a medium rare guy. So I do like that kind of charred exterior and just a little bit of chew on the outside of the steak, but I do like that warm, soft, pink red center in the middle. So medium rare for me these days, but it is somewhat of a free country still, and you are free to eat your steak however you want, and I am not going to judge you. At least not too much. Let's talk a little Staub. I put up a big 37-minute review of this Staub enamel cast iron frying pan and got a lot of feedback and questions from you guys. Let's go through some of that. Let's see, Kilroy wasn't there, 123, said good video. Is the Staub brand worth the extra money, or do you think a cheaper enamel cast iron would get the same results? Here we get out into the weeds of subjective opinion a little bit. I really do like the Staubs. I like the Le or Le Creuset, and I enjoy the kind of French brands and heritage and snoot factor, a little bit of snoot factor there, if you will. Can you get similar cooking results with cheaper enamel cast iron? Absolutely you can. There's kind of a tipping point somewhere around Lodge. I've got a Lodge enamel cast iron Dutch oven, and I've had fantastic results in cooking performance from this guy, and this thing was less than $100 when I got it. However, it's made in China. Now, Lodge is a very reputable brand, and they go out of their way to point out that they do some checking on the stuff they have made over in China. I think once you get past that down into some of the more off-brand Asian imported enameled cast iron pieces, then you start getting on a little bit of thin ice maybe in terms of risk from whatever they put in the paint, the enamel, the manufacturing processes, etc., etc. So I do get kind of value from the brand and the kind of trust in French-made cookware at the high end. You're probably okay. Well down through Lodge, even down to the Tramontina stuff. I've had a Tramontina. It's worked well for 15, 20 years. It's when you get down past that. You might get good cooking performance, but who knows what is in those products. And they might be perfectly fine, but the Staubs, the Le Creusets, there's a more long-term degree of brand trust that they have built up, at least in my mind, that I don't have with some of those other brands. And for me, it is worth it. For another person, it might not be worth it at all. Melanie Matson, 3733, says that mustard yellow colored pan, being from France, it should have been called Dijon instead of mustard. Okay, fair enough. French cookware. Let's see, Sean Uber Klimke, probably mispronouncing that, wrote in and said that the stove seems to be versatile and less maintenance than cast iron or steel pans. And he's wondering if you already have a good stainless pan, say a DeMeyer Pro Line Do you think the stove would be a little redundant, fun factor aside? There's definitely some overlap. And I think that DeMeyer ProLine Atlantis, as far as stainless steel pans go, that is absolutely top of the range. And if I could only pick one frying pan in the whole world, it might be that. I would go with the stainless steel for versatility. But once you get past that, though, we always talk about the 3-pan strategy. I like having some cast iron and some carbon steel as well. I think the cast iron with the thermal mass, the thickness, really good for things like cornbread. I would not make cornbread in a stainless steel skillet. Much rather use cast iron. For things like steaks, where you need some thermal mass to maintain a sear, I think the cast iron works really well. The carbon steel works really well. For things like eggs, I like the carbon steel better there. So even though there's some overlap and some redundancies with all frying pans, I think there's a case to be made for having all three. I cooked some eggs in that stove video. JKB Cook wrote in and said, the Goldilocks version for cooking an egg. I actually listened to your suggestion from the stove frying pan review, borrowed my husband's infrared hobby gun, and yes, I got the Goldilocks egg. Believe it or not, the tips I throw out in the videos, they actually work if you put them into practice. And I'm glad the videos actually help somebody, and now she has sliding eggs in her stove cast iron skillet. A Bite of Geek wrote in and said, good pronunciation of bruschetta. Bruschetta is an Italian word, and we all know what bruschetta are in America. If you go to Olive Garden with some people and someone says, I'll have the bruschetta, it kind of attacks your ear if you've spent any time in Italy and know how it's actually pronounced. So it's bruschetta, not bruschetta. Let's see, Gamer NXUSN wrote in, said, had the Le Creuset or Le Creuset version of the stove pan for 14 years. Got it as a wedding present, and it's been a workhorse. That is good to know, and I will probably be adding a Le Creuset version of this pan here with Black Friday coming up, depending on what sales go on. And now's a good time to kind of talk about Black Friday coming up. Let's all get our shopping lists ready. And the way I choose the enamel cast iron pieces I buy on the Black Friday sales is I just kind of look at my lineup. I see where the holes are, and I kind of get my list ready. And if the Le Creuset goes on sale and they got a bigger version of an enamel cast iron frying pan for 50% off or whatever the screaming deal is, I will probably jump on one of those, and it just depends. And as much as I enjoy having affiliate shopping links, which I hope everybody uses, I would not buy a pan this month in October unless you A, really need a specific pan for a specific purpose in the short term, or B, they're already on sale. What I would do is just get your list ready, and lots of times these Black Friday sales, they're 20% off. Sometimes you find things 50, 70% off. I would wait a couple of weeks if you can, and then jump on the deals as they arise. Make sure you are subscribed to Uncle Scott's Kitchen, because I know for a fact there are a couple of sales coming up that I can't mention just yet, but you can probably figure out what they're going to be on. Let's see, user dash a bunch of gobbledygook writes in kind of complaining about carbon steel and says, if you can impress people by making an omelet in a carbon steel pan or need to make a YouTube video on it, it becomes pretty obvious that these pans are an utter headache. That's probably true. Carbon steel, especially when you're new, it is a little bit of a headache. There is a learning curve. If you can get through that first week, first 10 cooks or so, it becomes a lot easier and people really like their carbon steel. It goes on and says, you can't find how to make an omelet in a nonstick pan because it works 1,000 times better than in a carbon stick pan. Okay, carbon stick, carbon steel. There's some truth to that as well. But if you make an omelet in a nonstick pan or get a nonstick fried egg in a nonstick pan, do you really know how to cook an omelet or an egg? Or is that just a modern convenience product? I can go to Costco and get a bag of the frozen omelet bites. I can microwave those and have a nice hot omelet in a minute or two on my plate for breakfast. But does that mean I really know how to cook an omelet? This is purely subjective here, but at this point in my life, I like kind of learning the old school, real deal, traditional way to make things. And it kind of makes me happy just as a person to know how to cook a French omelet the real deal way in a carbon steel French omelet pan. It makes me feel good. And it doesn't make me up here with Jacques Pepin, but I am definitely at least a little bit higher up in the cooking pecking order than someone who just uses non-stick skillets, gotta say. Okay, besides the new Breville, let's talk about some upcoming videos. There's gonna be a feature on this guy. This is a Debouillet 14-inch mineral beef frying pan. This thing is an absolute monster, and we're really gonna drill down on how to season a pan that is this big. This one has the coated handle. Can't go in the oven because of the handle. It also can't go in the oven because it's too big to fit in the oven. So this thing is very difficult to get heated evenly, and we'll go through, do some cooking on it. Also, all-clad D5. I've started doing the cooking for this review, and it's going okay so far. I've also got the copper core, and I've got the D3. The D3 is a tri-ply pan. It's got aluminum in the middle and stainless steel cooking surface and exterior. The copper core obviously has copper in its core. It's a 5-ply pan. And the D5 has stainless steel. It has stainless steel exterior, layer of aluminum, layer of stainless steel, more aluminum, and then the stainless steel cooking surface. High level, right off the bat, so far, and it may change, I like the copper core the best of the three, but this pan is well over $100 more than either the D5 or the D3, so it should be a little bit better. Let's see, one person wrote in and said that I did not sound like myself in one of the reviews, or one of the steak videos I put up today. I have a cold, and I've had a cold for a couple of weeks now. My son started back to school, so about every 3 weeks now, a mutant strain of something tends to burn through the household here. The voice may be a little bit off. See, carbon steel question, John KD1BF says, when an egg is done and off the skillet, what should be done next in terms of cleaning a carbon steel pan and leaving it seasoned? What I always do with eggs, especially if I use butter, if you cook them correctly, there shouldn't be any egg residue left in the pan. I just take a paper towel and wipe them out really well. And lots of times I don't even wash the pan, no water or anything, just a paper towel, and I wipe it out. Now butter, you don't want it to, now leftover butter, you don't want it to go rancid, so only do this if you're going to use your pan every couple of days. But I kind of feel like the little remnant of butter left in the pan, or oil, depending on how you cook your eggs, that kind of acts as my protective layer until the next time I use the pan. See, PV4669 says, different kitchens and beard, no beard are freaking me out. And what PV is referring to is the fact that in some of my videos, sometimes I got a beard and time goes by, and sometimes I don't have a beard. I gain weight, I lose weight. Normally my pan reviews take a month or so. I like to cook in a pan at least 20 times or so before I start opining on it. The stove review that he's talking about, this one ended up taking about 5 months. And that was ridiculous, even by my standards. What happened is I started the review, and then my wife gave birth to our daughter. So I've been doing a lot of round-the-clock infant care, and stuff just kind of slips a little bit when you got a baby who needs a diaper change and a bottle. Speaking of a bottle, what am I pouring these days in this video? It's a little Elijah Craig Toasted Barrel. And pretty tasty stuff. And no, I did not drink this entire bottle for this Pancast. It's taken me at least a day or two. Okay, that wraps her up for this episode of Uncle Scott's Pancast. Post your questions, comments, and feedback below. Check out the affiliate shopping links. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next time on Uncle Scott's Pancast.